TFA fam, welcome back in. This is part 2 of our discussion for the 2022 top 10 rookie running backs for this season. This will be running back 6 through 10. So whatever comments, concerns you may have, guys you may have left out, be sure to drop that in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's get back into the goodness. Bye. So with that being said, let's switch gears a little bit and move on to kind of the now we're past that in the top 5 guys. Let's get a little bit more into the weeds here on some of these other guys that are, I think that this is where you're going to start to get some difference for people. This is where you're going to start seeing guys that are all over the board here. Once you kind of get past these, especially the top 4 guys where this is going to change. So why don't you take this one and let us know who is your next guy up or who would be your top guy you had at 5th?
Yeah, the guy I have at 5 is Jerome Ford. The transfer from Alabama was at Cincy this year, really popped off. Came in at the Senior Bowl a little bit lighter than what I was expecting, especially for how he runs. He came in at 209, but again, that doesn't really matter to me, but he runs a lot harder and a lot tougher than I would expect from a 209-pound back. Popped off this year, like I said, with Cincy. Over 1,500 scrimmage yards, 20 total touchdowns, good acceleration. He can lower the boom, run through tackles. He has good hands as well. I think he had at least 20 receptions this year. So he's someone who I'm really excited to see, in terms of, again, the combine and where he ends up going in terms of the NFL draft. But I think he's one of these guys who's kind of being a little overlooked because I think he kind of just has everything. But that's the kind of the case with this class, right, where there's no one that like really has that one elite trait, that one calling card. But he's someone who I really like everything that I saw on tape. Checks the boxes. Obviously, we want to see these guys come out at a younger age, but he did more than enough in his year at Cincy to make me confident in what he can do at the next level. Kind of just has that all-around NFL skill set.
I think something with him, too, that people talk about, because I like him as well. I am at 7, but again, another guy that I can see myself moving up because I really like Jerome Ford as well. Something that should be mentioned with him that I was found when I was looking, kind of looking into a lot of these guys is that in high school, I mean, he ran a 10.5 100-meter dash. Like, that is blazing if you're not familiar with, how good that time is for somebody like that. So at his size, obviously he's put on a little bit more weight probably since then, but still, he is a super explosive athlete and somebody that kind of, checks all the boxes as well. So, I want to see in the combine as well to kind of solidify things a little bit. But I do love Jerome Ford, and I think Jerome Ford can end up being kind of that, 3rd round draft capital guy that if he lands in the right spot that I'm going to absolutely love. So this is where, the things are going to get a little bit different for me and Cody, where we have guys a little bit different, but we all pretty much have the same guys in the top 10. So I will just keep it moving, and let's talk about Tyler Badie. Now, obviously, I am the Tyler Badie truther of this show, of this website, of this entity.
Universe.
Yes, and I honestly do not understand the hate with Tyler Badie, honestly, or at least the lack of people being, on board with him. I've seen a lot of people, especially before Senior Bowl and stuff like that, that were having him as undrafted or a 7th round pick. And I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. We're talking about a running back last year who rushed for 1,600 yards, had 54 receptions, which leads all running backs in this class, 330 yards and 18 touchdowns, and probably should have won the Doak Walker Campbell Award. Should have, okay? Should have won it, right? But he didn't, regardless of that. But his knock is his size, right? He came in at the combine at 5'7", 199. Again, we're talking about if he was one more pound, if he came in at like 201, I don't think people would be as concerned with it. But 199 is not bad for his size. But with Tyler Badie, like he is a super explosive athlete, excellent pass catcher, runs much bigger than his size. I mean, there are some plays and some highlights out there, which if you go and look for highlights of Tyler Badie, you will see this play. I almost guarantee it. He is engulfed by like 5 or 6 defenders, and it's just him. And he somehow gets out of this and then breaks those tackles and runs for another 30-plus yards after that. Like, he is a guy who I think could be a sort of, Austin Eckler type running back here. He proved that with his 268 carries. He did it in the SEC and was the best running back, in my opinion, in college football this year. Total package. absolutely crushed, in terms of production. And so we'll see. He was a guy coming out of high school who ran a 4.4. So I think he's going to come in somewhere right around there as well. I, again, thought about putting him in my top 5. But I'm like, that's a little bit too high. If I'm going to knock Kyron Williams for him to the size, just a little bit. I can't do that with Tyler Badie. I have a feeling that when he comes into the combine, he's probably going to be over 200 pounds. I have a feeling. We'll see. But regardless of that, I absolutely love Tyler Badie. At worst, he's going to be an excellent 3-down running back, somebody like a Nyheim Hines type. But I think there is a role where he could end up, because he has proven to be able to be a strong, 3-down running back, somebody that can handle the workload and not get hurt.
Yeah, I liked him too. I did not realize that he came in at 199 at the Senior Bowl. I was looking at his college football reference where he was 194. It's obviously a little, again, it's only 5 pounds, which it just makes you feel better. Right, the thing that has me push him down a little bit is like we didn't see him do really anything on the ground until his senior year. Right, he was involved as a pass catcher the previous years. 32 catches as a sophomore, 28 as a junior. So he was involved in the passing game, but didn't really do anything on the ground until this last year when he handled almost 270 carries. I like him. I don't understand how you could have watched him and thought that he was like undraftable. Again, unless you were just trying to completely knock him on his size, but it doesn't really matter because there's clearly a place for him at the very worst as a pass catcher. And there's just some questions I have as far as all that stuff goes. And that's why I have him a little bit lower. I have him at 10, but I liked what I saw from him. Definitely plays bigger than what his listed size was.
All right, so next up, let's talk about Rachaad White. I think we're both on the same page with him, so I don't think we need to get into super in-depth with him. I have him at 8 right now. I am happy to see that at the Senior Bowl he came in, and he was listed at 6'2" through Arizona State. At 210, which I was a little bit concerned with. He is an older running back, but he did profile really well as a pass catcher. He was 3rd among all running backs in yards per route run, 43 receptions for 456 yards, a 16% target share, 182 carries, 1,000 rushing yards, 16 total touchdowns. But he was listed at 6'2", and you saw a lot. He really ran upright. And as a guy who was listed at 6'2", like that's a problem. We don't see a lot of running backs at that size in the NFL. However, at the Senior Bowl, he did come in at 6 foot, so that makes me feel a little bit better about him, at least in terms of his size. He is a great pass catcher, but I think draft capital is going to be a big thing for him. He is somebody that a lot of people do like. I'm a little bit lower on him than others, and I think you are too. So I don't think we need to get super in depth with him, just because I feel like both of us are on kind of the same page with him. Because I do want to get your answer on another guy, and then the other guy at the Senior Bowl who really crushed it was Dameon Pierce. Everybody raved about Dameon Pierce at the Senior Bowl. Very, very limited profile for him. Never had more than 600 rushing yards in a season. I don't know why that is. Sometimes we see this with guys where people just don't give them the opportunity. But in 2020, he had 106 attempts for 501 yards, 4 touchdowns, 17 receptions, 156 receiving yards. 2021, he had 100 carries for 574 yards, 13 touchdowns, 216 receptions on 216 receiving yards on 19 receptions. And then, so obviously the advanced stuff is not going to be very good, but he's been a big-time riser because of Senior Bowl. Some pros, by watching some of his tape at Florida, he absolutely cuts on a dime, consistently gets through the first defender. He doesn't have great bursts, and he had limited usage. I don't know why that is, but he is somebody that everybody raved about at the Senior Bowl, looked fantastic, was just running through people. So Dameon Pierce, I think, is an interesting prospect, 5'9", 220, out of Florida. Kind of reminds me somewhat, like, is he more of like a DJ Dallas type running back who was kind of limited in terms of his production, where people kind of like, I could see that maybe like a day 3 pick where he goes in the 5th or 6th round, something like that. We'll see on Dameon Pierce, but he is definitely a riser. I've seen people put him in their top 5, and that's ridiculous to me. I think it's a little bit too strong with some of the other running backs here. If you don't have anything else to put on Dameon Pierce, I want to get to the guy that I think you're higher on than everybody is. I have my top 10, but you're definitely higher than everybody else is. I wanted to get to him. Do you have anything else on Pierce?
No, just like you said, it's kind of odd how his usage ended up shaking out. Came in at 220 pounds at the Senior Bowl. Has some really nice traits that he flashes. So I'm really curious to see where he ends up going in terms of the draft. And he's definitely a name that we need to keep an eye on even after the draft. If he doesn't get the draft capital and he ends up on like a shaky kind of depth chart. So keep Dameon Pierce in your back pocket, in your rookie drafts as well. Someone you might want to take a snag with, in the 4th round of your rookie drafts.
Yeah. And so next up, let's talk about the guy that I just was talking about out of UTSA, somebody that nobody has or nobody's really high. I haven't really heard anybody really talk about. I have him at 10. You have him higher than this. This is a running back that's coming out as a junior. Is coming from from Conference USA, smaller school, but 3-year starter there, but productive. I mean, had almost 1,000 rushing yards every year of his career, going all the way back as a freshman. Had 983 as a freshman, 1467 in 2020, and 1479 rushing yards. 66 career receptions, 509 career receiving yards. Listed at 5'9", 205, and that is Sincere McCormick. And so, Cody, hit us with what you love so much about Sincere McCormick. I think you have him at 6, if I believe correctly. But somebody that is completely off the radar for most people right now.
Yeah, I have him at 7 behind Tyler Algier. But you want to talk about someone, you were mentioning all of his production, 5'9", 205. So a fine size and weight. Obviously, again, if we were making one in a lab, it would be a little bit bigger. But you want to talk about someone who kind of is a plus athlete. He's quick, he's agile, jukey, shifty. You were mentioning all the things about his production profile. At least 20 catches every single year as well. So he's one of those, again, this class is full of them. Not a lot of holes in his game, but the thing that I really like is the athleticism and how and what he shows in that regard compared to some of these other guys, right? Rachaad White, someone you mentioned, he definitely has the speed, but he's, like you were mentioning, his running styles. It's a little weird when you watch him. Like, it's kind of like he's more of an athlete more so than a running back behind the line of scrimmage. But Sincere McCormick, man, has the production all 3 years, coming out as a junior. You love that. I was very surprised we didn't, go over these names before we started to record, and we kind of just went through them. I thought I was going to be on an island, but I was very happy to see that you had McCormick in your top 10 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to deny the production. Now, again, he did play at a smaller conference. It's not like he's playing in some big Power 5 conference, but still, and the fact that that he's coming out as a junior, coming from a small school, I mean, that is also impressive to me. So he is still on the younger side of things as well. I believe he turns 21 in April, I believe, as what I was looking at, but. Regardless of that, I think he is a very interesting prospect. So past that, I think that kind of is our top 10. But there's definitely some other guys that to pay attention to, and as things go on here. I mean, you have guys like Abram Smith, who a lot of people are excited about. Tyler Goodson is another name. Pierre Strong from South Dakota State. Kevin Harris, South Carolina. Zonovan Knight is a guy that I've seen that PFF is a little bit higher on than everybody else out of South Carolina. Zamir White, James Cook from Georgia, Brian Robinson from Alabama. I'm sure that there's going to be some people in the comment section talking about, why isn't this guy on the list? Why isn't this guy? Listen, It's very early in the process. We are pre-combine. We didn't want to go super in-depth on these guys.
No, I think you got the main names. I think the ones we're going to get the most blowback on is going to be Brian Robinson and Zamir White. And for me, Brian Robinson didn't do anything until his 5th-year senior year, where he popped off. A little bit more of just like a power back, 228 pounds. Like, he's going to have a role, maybe if he gets to a system kind of like not comparing him to Derrick Henry, but in a system where they're just going to let him run the ball a ton, he can have some value there. And then Zamir White is someone who, I feel like I've been hearing him get hyped up for the past 8 years from Devy circles. It's just hard to put someone up in my top 10 anyway, as of right now, who has back-to-back 2 torn ACLs, I think. So the combine's going to be interesting for him for the medicals. And then also before these injuries, he was rumored to be running a sub 4.4 at 220 pounds. So all it takes is one team to give him that draft capital. And for redraft purposes, like, we don't really need him to be, a running back on our teams for 5 years. You know what I mean? So redraft purposes, he can definitely shoot up, even for dynasty purposes for that matter, because we really only need one contract out of these guys. But yeah, I think those are going to be the ones that we get the most blowback on.
other than that, like I said, we got a lot more stuff coming out, player profiles. We're going to keep doing this for every position. We'll redo it again once we get through the combine, free agency, stuff like this. We'll do this all again. We're going to start having more guests on. We're also going to try to start doing more mock drafts for everybody, that all of the dynasty community out there, that for your rookie drafts and everything else, so we can start getting a better idea of where these guys are going for rookie drafts. So keep it locked in here. We're not going anywhere. We got a ton of content coming. Just because the season's over with doesn't mean that we're not going to continue pumping out a lot of content. And we'll have some redraft stuff here and there, especially as we get closer, and then we'll go into full gear once we get into May, June timeframe, right around there, for back to redraft season. So I appreciate everybody rocking with us this year. Appreciate all the support. We're on to the road of getting to 3K subs. I'd like to get there, as quickly as possible. So I really appreciate it. Hit that like, subscribe button. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Be sure to leave a comment, how you think, or what we got right, what we missed, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.